Welcome to Grounding Connection, where we're renaturing in relationship with climate change. This series demonstrates a different way to interact with our fear, anger, hopelessness, and helplessness around climate change, or collapse, or sixth extinction event, however you label it. I'm Betsy Kudlinski. I'm a freedom guide, like a nature guide, but the nature we're exploring is our own, as someone living with trauma, stress, and overwhelm. We work our way towards personal freedom. With our nervous system's interest and safety in mind, I guide us to trust our true nature and feel the freedom to walk our own paths in life. With training in somatic experiencing and life coaching, over 3 decades of working professionally with animals, and more than 20 years of interest in climate change, this project is an attempt at making a human impact. I'm representing only me in my work, which is how I use my knowledge and skills in relationship and community with human and non human animals. I'm not portraying SE or even life coaching here. I fully acknowledge that I wouldn't be here doing this without the knowledgeable people in my social lineage. Also, the radiant humans with whom I couldn't record this series are volunteers, some of whom I have worked with in the past, and some I've never met before. Everything beyond the first couple of minutes you'll see and hear is spontaneous. It's how I work, and I won't change it, even for YouTube. I'm deeply grateful both for these humans and for any and all humans who watch these episodes. If this episode is interesting or helpful to you, let me know. We all have to deal with YouTube's algorithms, so comment, like, subscribe, tell a friend. If it means a whole lot, I'd be delighted if you bought me a coffee. The link's in the description. Now, this episode is with Amanda, who I've never worked with in this capacity before. The issue she's brought is her feeling of having an inability to make a change in this broader context of climate change. I'm sure you may have a little bit of resonance with this one. Hi, Amanda. So
Hi,
happy to see you.
happy to be here. Hi.
Yeah. So we've kind of been in like a Venn diagram kind of orbit for years now.
Yeah,
And we've
yeah.
done a couple of things together. We've never really worked together in this capacity for sure. Um, but I was thrilled that you were interested and excited to help me with this project.
I was, I'm thrilled to be here and to work with you. I've wanted to work with you for a long time,
Cool.
in this capacity specifically. I know
Hmm.
I've enjoyed our other things, but I just really like you. Um, and when this opportunity came up a few times to do this work,
Hmm. Hmm.
I was like, okay, yeah, yeah, this is it. This is the way.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to be here.
Good. Good. I'm so glad. Um, so we talked a little bit earlier before hitting record, um, and I'm curious what is going to come out of your mouth when I ask you
Ooh.
what is the issue, the greater thing that grabs you when you think about working on, your somatic experience of climate change or climate change trauma.
Hmm. I was telling you before about knowing about climate change since I was a kid.
Hmm.
Um, and there are so many aspects where this is true in my life, but really, um, when I look at what's happening to the planet, what we're
Hmm.
doing to the planet,
Hmm.
my inability to make it stop, my inability to make any kind of change that changes it,
Yeah.
it gets heavy. It gets really heavy. Like I can go pick up a bunch of trash. I could walk places instead of drive. I could turn off my air conditioner. I can do 1 million things. And the difference is so tiny.
Hmm.
And I'm a helper by
Hmm.
nature. I've always been a helper by nature.
Hmm.
And when helpers can't make change, when they help and help and help and nothing changes.
Hmm.
I think I said before, it's like trying to move a mountain a grain of sand at a time.
Yeah,
And it's hard. It's
it's
hard to
hard.
carry.
It's
Yeah.
hard. Do you mind if I ask you to pause for just a second and see
Yep.
how you're feeling right now?
Oh, I'm feeling a little sad actually. Um,
Yeah.
my mind is presenting me like this image of this park near my house.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a playground park on this side of this little like four house street, right?
Mm-hmm.
And across the street, in between the subdivision, so they've built these houses as close as they can to this creek that's down there. That is,
Mm.
I mean, the little path. There's a three-level path that kind of loops in and onto itself. Um, in between these old trees
Mm-hmm.
is there.
Mm-hmm.
And then this creek that is dropped down into the earth and could be deep and full and beautiful
Mm-hmm.
is literally marked off by these metal uh like handrails and little fences. And I get small children at the park, you need this sort of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
the first time I went down there and walking through all this nature that isn't through all this nature because you can see into the yards of all these houses as you go, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I see these fences and I just stood there and cried for the water that has to roll by that metal all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And water
So
will get through.
this sadness that you're feeling,
Yeah,
yeah,
it
it's
is
pretty powerful.
heavy.
It's heavy. Yeah, whether it's for, you know, it sounds like the sadness that you were feeling describing the futility of moving a mountain a grain of sand at a time. And like it resonated so deeply with this story of this creek that just wants to run deep and full and clear
Yeah.
and instead has to live within these metal fences.
Mm. Yes. And the there's a house that drips, they do mechanical work on cars. So there's oil from these vehicles that run into it. And this neighborhood isn't a cheap neighborhood, right? It isn't a
Mm-hmm.
affordable neighborhood. I
Right.
don't mean like cheap as in quality. I mean like cheap as in people can work and just afford to have a home there. It's not one of those neighborhoods. It is a
Yeah.
very expensive,
Yeah.
expensive neighborhood. There's no reason for it.
Yeah.
And it's all hidden. Nobody talks about it. Nobody thinks about it. Nobody knows about it. You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, the
And that
ground.
sounds an awful lot like this whole collapse thing. I call it climate change because I've been interested in it and following it for so long. But, you can call it multiple ecosystem change. Climate change itself doesn't encompass everything that we're working with. We're also working with um, topsoil loss and um, uh, resource deprivation and uh, forest decimation and extinction of lots of species of animals. And I'm still looking for it. If you've got suggestions, please bring them for a term that can encompass all of these things. You were calling it climate collapse.
Yeah.
I tend to call it climate change because I don't know. I don't know. That's my own thing.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
not that I don't recognize the collapse part of it, but there's this fencing off of nature. It's us on this side and that's going to be over there doing its thing and we're watching it do its thing, aren't we?
we are. We are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you still feel that sadness right now?
A little, a little. Like it's wanting to pour into all the other ways, all the other things. Like
Yeah.
there's no crocuses coming up in
Mhm.
that walk.
Mhm.
There should be. There
Mhm.
should be. There's nothing. It's just
What
all
happens if
dead.
instead of using that big beautiful cortex
Uh,
for other anecdotes, other
Yeah.
stories. What if we turn it to that sadness? Is that okay to just look at it on the edges? You know, if you want, you can start with your shoulders and like creep in until you can just kind of like see. You can just kind
Mm,
of see the sadness there. You don't have to go into the middle of it. Would that be okay?
yeah.
Yeah. So maybe from your shoulder, maybe from across the room, where does that sadness reside in your body?
Mm. It rests along the top of things, like
Ah.
across my collarbone, across my
Mm,
pelvic bones, across the
mm.
tops of each rib. It's like I've been sprinkled with it, like salt or something.
Yeah.
No, it's across everything.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's interconnected with other sadnesses. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Everything is everything.
Everything is everything.
And are you still far enough away that you can keep looking at it?
Yeah.
Okay. If you ask it if that sadness that's sprinkled across everything, across your collarbones, across the top of your pelvis, across the tops of your ribs, if it could speak, what would that sadness say? These big long pauses are crucial. For podcast purposes, the pauses are decreased because you'll forget that you're listening to something. You'll worry that it's not here anymore. But if you're watching this, these pauses where people, these humans get the chance to really consider, how often in life do you get a pause this long to really think about it?
Mm. It says stop, rest, ease.
Wow. Yeah. Stop, rest, peace. Wow. And what does that do for you or to you when you hear that message?
Um, I don't know how to stop.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
Yeah.
Uh, the rest of me is um, what would even happen if I stopped? What
Mm.
happened to me? What would I become if I stopped moving?
Well, that's an excellent question. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that part that that message that the rest of you that what would even happen if I stopped? Is there a quality to that? Is there an emotion to that?
Oh, yeah. Uh, it feels like mm, I've got like these two opposing images in my head and
Okay.
like felt senses. One is me screaming in
Mhm.
frustration,
Mhm.
like hands clenched and
Mhm. Can you
uh
just be with that for a second?
oh God, I don't want to be.
Okay, you don't have to be. What's the other one?
Ooh, the other one is I see a shark.
A shark
A shark.
that has to stay moving all the
That's-
time in order to continue to breathe.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's heavy.
that's
Yeah,
very,
yeah,
but I feel like those two things are always simmering,
yeah,
just next to me, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Yes.
So, if it's okay, So we move around, we switch around, we change topics. We don't stay with anything for too long because it's hard. I know I say that all the time throughout these videos, but it's really helpful for our system to go back and forth, to change topics, to think about good things, to think about bad things, to stay with the bad, to stay with the good. And it doesn't have to be good or bad, it can be okay, it can be neutral. And this is something to remember kind of for life, is to not sink into stuff so much that it consumes you. Can you tell me about the trail that
I
winds down through this little park?
can. Um,
What kind of stuff do you notice when you're on that trail?
mm, it's all brown. The
Mhm.
the trail is packed dirt.
Mhm.
Um, I like the way it loops. So there's like this long path, and then
Mhm.
like it dips down, and there's a path, and it dips down again, and there's a path. So there's
Yeah.
like it's like cursive.
Yeah. So
Uh,
so that looping, that looping that is like cursive,
yeah,
it appeals to artistic or smooth or what
possibility. I could go
possibility.
anywhere. I could do anything. I could loop all the way to the bottom and come around to the top, or go through the middle and loop back around. I can walk in that trail and give myself the appearance of being lost in the woods.
Yeah. What would
All
it
I
like to
want.
be? What would it be like to be lost in the woods?
Heaven. Oh my God.
Heaven.
Heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely heaven.
Can you just be there for a second? Like, is that okay?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the absolute heaven of being lost in the woods.
Mm.
And as you're there, what do you hear?
So much chirping, so
Chirping.
much tree
Yeah.
singing,
Yeah.
so much sunlight.
Yeah.
The trees are so thick that the sunlight comes in like shutters, like shutters.
Mm-hmm.
Really lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Barking dogs,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and my feet on that path and their irritation with shoes.
Yeah. So if you're lost in the woods, can you take your shoes off?
Oh, for sure. I would absolutely
Yeah.
remove them at some
Yeah.
point.
And so is there grass on the ground or is it
No,
leaf litter?
it's all just dead leaves,
Mm-hmm.
decomposing things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
So
demons.
when you would take your shoes off, I just took my shoes off because they're slippy. Um, and you put your feet on the ground. Can you imagine it right now? Like, what would it feel like? Would it be cool? Or is it warm enough that it would be warm in your heaven of being lost in the woods?
Oh, I can go to the right now of being lost in the woods. It would be slightly like almost room temperature
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
there's enough sun and the
Mm-hmm.
like 50 degrees here.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a 70-degree day yesterday, and the earth knows how to take care of itself.
Yeah.
And it would feel dry,
Mm.
soft.
Mm-hmm.
I would leave a mark where my foot was, but it wouldn't sink in to
Mm.
be blown away or walked over and erased. And
Mm-hmm.
I would just be another foot in the woods. And
Yeah. There's something that sounds
mm,
like you like that idea.
I do. I do
Yeah.
very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would it be okay to check in with your body right now? How do you
Mhm.
feel right now?
Like I'm peeking out from under all of my bones. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you peek out from under all your bones, do you want to like nose out a little bit more? Or is it safe under there?
Oh, I think I can nose out a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what happens?
I just feel like myself again. My
Yeah.
myself that's um not around other people, you know,
Yeah.
just myself.
Just yourself.
Just myself. Mm.
Yeah. And just being yourself for a sec. We're just wallowing in the good.
Yeah.
We're savoring. There's so much bad. Why not savor some good? Right? Yeah. So savoring yourself, nosing out from underneath your bones, feeling, yeah, there you go. Yeah. Feeling the heaven of being lost in the woods in bare feet,
Mm.
leaving no mark after the wind has gone through. Yeah, there you go.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And ask yourself if it's okay to come back a little bit.
Mm. Mm. There's a like there's always there's this immediate response of, oh sure, yeah.
Right? And
But a little bit of "Ugh, okay. You know what I mean?
I do. Can you tell me more about that? Ugh, okay.
Mm. There are so few places in my life that it's hard to just be like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't, it isn't with my partner. It isn't with my kids. It
Mm-hmm.
isn't. I have a tiny handful of friends and they don't mind if I show up a little feral. And I just want it more and more. And I love my people, so of course I will come back. So it's
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of that,
Yeah.
a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we ask Feral Amanda if she wants to stay with us a little bit
Mm.
as we venture back into the change, what do you notice? There's a smile.
She just wants to wiggle her toes in the dirt one more time.
Okay, okay. Let's wiggle the toes in the dirt one more time. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Mm.
yeah. Good.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah. Okay. So, another thing that you mentioned earlier is a suspicion of maybe one of the places that you hold the tension of what's going on with the planet, with the climate, with, you know, the way humans treat the creek around the corner. And I'm
Oh,
wondering if it feels the same now.
mm. Um, hmm. No,
Huh.
no. It was like here, like
Yeah.
just above the center in between my shoulder blades, like just right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Um, and I carry a lot of it like hunched over,
Mm,
like it's
yeah.
weighted right here.
Yeah.
And now it feels here, like
Like in your hands.
like I'm holding it. Like I can hold it. I can. It's like it
Wow.
here. Like
Interesting.
the palms of my hands are touching it.
Does that mean that it's actually outside of your body?
No, it's like on when I do this, it's just on my hands like skin. And when I do
Mm-hmm.
this, it's as big as I want
Mm. How big do you want it?
it. Oh,
Please excuse my excitement. I adore what I do, and I love changes. That's what I'm looking for is any sort of changes. And I get really into listening and paying attention and what's going on. And everybody does it differently. Like every person, every human that I'm working with works differently. And I love finding out what's going on with somebody.
like this.
Okay, so when this happens, does
Yeah,
it change the amount of tension?
yeah. It feels cup of rice, cup of sand
Yeah,
instead of single grain or all of it at once. It
yeah,
feels this is mine to hold. This is mine. And it's easy held. Like it's not holding. You know what I mean?
yeah. I
It's
do.
holding.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, does that mean that you get to decide whether you're holding this much or whether you're holding a cup of rice, a cup
Oh
of
yeah.
sand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I'm under my bones, I know that. When I'm looking at the top of my bones, I only see the stuff on top of the
Yeah.
bones.
All that sprinkled sadness, right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. That's a good argument for staying under your bones as much as possible, huh?
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
What just came up?
That I learn about capacity and the way I work with my soul and the way I exist in this world in unexpected places all the time. That's what just
Mm-hmm.
came
Mm-hmm.
floating across my brain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Isn't that awesome?
it is.
I love
It
that.
is intense and it is deep and it is wild and a lot. And I fucking love it.
Yeah.
I love it. The alternative is not doing any of that. And how
Mm-hmm.
terrifying. It's sad and
Mm-hmm.
still, how still that is.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That poor river needs to flow and be deep and clear.
yeah,
So does Feral Amanda.
yeah, she does.
Yeah. So thinking of the places in your life where you get to touch her,
Hmm.
embody her, be her, even a little. You don't even have to say them out loud, just kind of like, if you want to, you're more than welcome to. But just like running down and seeing where that's okay. When you go to that park and you take those cursive loops and they feel like possibility,
Mm.
Yeah. Where are you right now?
I have this dream that I see all the time for like the last 6 or 7 months now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this house. It's got a big sunroom, tons of windows, only
Mm-hmm.
windows, and a fireplace at one end.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always walking out those doors. It's my house into this backyard that has this walking path where it's dirt in the middle of the grass
Mm-hmm.
that is old grass. It's not sod grass like for fancy lawns. It's old grass that never needs mowing because it never gets big and it's just existing there under the
Mm-hmm.
cover of trees. And I walk, I just walk there. And sometimes when I dream it, I'm in my own body, and other times I'm kind of watching.
Mm-hmm.
And this time was a watching. And I don't walk like a human thing. I walk like I'm prowling. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
uh there's an animal quality to my gait and to my
Mm-hmm.
steps and to the way I move my shoulders and the way I stop and listen
Mm-hmm.
to the animal traffic around me. And when I think of being my feral self, I go there all the time.
Yeah.
I call it my small house, big land dream. But it's not really big land, it's like an acre, right? It's a walkable, a reasonable amount of walking space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds nurturing. And when you come back from that,
Yeah.
like as you had to come back to tell me about it,
Yeah.
how do you feel?
Um, Coming back to talk to you about it is fine because I'm still contained
Mm-hmm.
in my physical space. I'm still right here.
Mm-hmm.
When I move out into like my kitchen or downstairs or into my life that I'm currently living, um, oh, I get itchy because I'm so far from her. And I just
Mm-hmm.
want to go there.
Mm-hmm.
And God, there's this, I've been dealing with this thing for a really long time now, like years now, where I keep naming all the problems that I think I have, and really I just want people to understand. I just want people to understand me.
You.
And, and they
You
won't.
just want people to understand you.
Yeah. Yeah,
Do you?
most of the time when I'm not fighting it.
Mm-hmm. When you're looking from underneath your bones.
Hmm. Yeah. When I'm
Yeah.
looking on top of my bones, I'm like, no, there's so much to do. There's so much to do. I can't put this down. But I'm not even really holding anything. Not anything that is mine.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Oof.
Was that a shiver? What
It
just
was,
happened
it was,
there?
um, in my life, there's been a lot of times when I dissociate,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and there was the wanting
Mm-hmm.
and the no, we're not gonna.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was,
And so you
yeah,
forcefully know that looked a
yeah,
little bit like a shiver.
it
And
was.
then what happened? Did you come back?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it was a okay, but ooh, it's jarring. It's jarring when I don't let it
Yeah.
happen. It's a relatively new skill.
I'm struck by how far it seems like we are from Amanda's worry about her inability to make a change in the broader context of climate change. And this is the process. for all of us, it's not about climate change. It's about how we're holding it. It's about the things in our current and past lives that have made it hard for us to deal with climate change. And so, this is the process. This is the beauty. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's something that I work with people all the time on, right? The dissociating, and we
Yeah.
don't have time for that today.
It's
But you have a way, right? And it's actually shaking it off.
it is. It is. There used to be a lot of shame about dissociation. Um, and I realized that shame came from other people's relationship with trauma,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Their relationship is their own and it's not mine. And I
Mm-hmm.
can't be responsible for that. And it's helped me understand that for me and this body, dissociating saved my fucking life a million times,
Absolutely.
a million times.
Yeah.
Preserved my mind, preserved my soul, it preserved my heart, my integrity.
Yeah.
Um, and now I'm not in that same danger that I was. So
We have to
staying
find new
is,
ways to do it.
yeah, staying is necessary, but also a little scary.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Decades of history saying that it's not safe to stay,
right.
right? Of course it's going to be hard to stay here.
Yeah. Mm.
Maybe maybe creating new trails out into the woods.
Oh, yeah. There's like a negotiation time too
Yeah.
that I'm navigating right now. My
Yeah.
brain feels shaky, like it wants to, um, like it knows there's something going on, and I can feel some kind of something being dumped into my system, adrenaline.
Right now?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
because there's, uh, have you ever tried to put a small animal into a carrier
Mhm.
and it's just all, yeah,
Mhm.
I got a little bit of that right now.
Yeah. And there was this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you still feeling that?
No, it's mostly the tentacles, the edges of
Yeah.
there's still a paw caught in the door of the carrier and that kind of thing. And it just, it ripples out. It ripples out, you know? Um,
Tell me
it,
more.
it's like the center of me wants to go,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I talked to you before we started recording about realizing the places that I hold that stuff in my body is
Yeah.
throat, hips.
Yeah.
And so as my head is saying, no, we're not
Mhm.
doing that,
Mhm.
there's that center of me stays, but my arms and legs and appendages kind of like I've got tension like right here next to my elbow, which is such an odd place to have anything happen. I mean,
Can
it's
you very specifically pay attention to that tension right next to your elbow? You can, yeah, put your
yeah,
hand on it if you want. We're not digging into it right now. We're just like attending to it.
like looking at it.
Yeah,
Hmm.
bringing it attention. Yeah. This series is not an effort to teach about how to do this. It's more experiential. Um, and I want to make sure that I don't bypass the fact that Amanda is having an actual reaction to telling herself to stay put, and not freeze or dissociate. That there's lots of different words for that. Dissociation tends to be a psychology term, with um, a connotation that could be a little bit different, than I usually use it as. But she's having an actual physical reaction right now, and we're just moving through it without necessarily speaking the actual thing that's happening. So I'm not teaching. This isn't about that. And yeah. And if stillness is not okay, we could, you know, attend to that tension by your elbow, right? I'm not asking you to be still if that's not okay.
No, I'm, so I have physical responses.
Mhm.
Like my skin is cold
Yeah.
outside and
Yeah.
it's moving down into my hands.
Yeah.
Like it's just the abruptness of the no and the reverberation rippling out, literally out of my skin.
Hmm.
And it's really weird.
Hmm.
And also,
And
okay,
as you're doing this,
yeah,
is it helping your hands? Is
yeah,
it helping the rest of
yeah.
you?
It's like washing. It is.
Yeah.
It's like washing it off. It's
Yeah.
just, yep, we're good. We're fine. Um,
Is that true?
it is true. It is true.
So that feeling of adrenaline or whatever it was, has it,
Disappearing.
it's dissipated. Is it completely gone?
No,
Because you're still
no,
moving
it
your hand.
is. Yeah, it is going.
It's
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
So can we just like watch it go? We're not we're not asking more of it. We're not trying to keep it here. We're not trying to get it to go.
Mm,
Just like
no,
watching. Is it mostly in your hands? Is it in your feet?
my feet, I'm moving my toes too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's left like my elbow areas and like below my knees and
Yeah.
that space right back on the back of my head. It's going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's catching your attention over there to your right?
There's a bird trying
Mm-hmm.
to do something in my window over there, and there's a lot of scratching and going, and it's animal talk.
It's animal talk. Maybe
Animal talk.
there's the sun's hitting it just right, so it's a mirror and he's looking at another bird.
No, no, no. I don't have an animal in here doing it. It's outside.
Yeah, that's what I
It's
mean.
trying to. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. I don't know, but I wouldn't. I don't want them to build a nest in my window.
No.
Mm,
You can make it uninhabitable for them. You can open it and you shout at them every time they're there.
I would never. I would never. I would
They
just
can just
like.
go find another place.
I would just be like, look, we got trees in the back. Go there. Go to there. Go up to the gutters somewhere else. Just not my window. Yeah.
And where is that activation now? Is it still lingering in your hands and your toes?
There's hmm, there's a little bit across my knuckles. There's a little bit here. There's a little
Mm-hmm.
bit in the joints of places.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's added a few more grains to the shit that sits on top of my bone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that wants to happen? Is there anything that wants to be said? Is there any movement that wants to be made?
Mm.
What just went through your head? You're like, no.
I have been steadfastly ignoring all the webbing, like spider
Mm-hmm.
webbing
Mm-hmm.
that happens in my body and my head
Mm-hmm.
anytime I navigate these things. And
Mm-hmm.
it's always the way, oh, this feels like,
Mm-hmm.
and it keeps
Oh, it's
all of
coupling.
life, all of life
Mm-hmm.
right here today, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very inconvenient.
That everything is connected to everything else?
Yes.
Oh, what
Oh,
a pain in the butt.
yeah, it's super irritating. But sometimes it's like big scary webs that you're like, I'm just not gonna. Other times it's like when you walk through that one single strand of web and it touches your face and you can't find it, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm.
Right now it feels like single strands that are just touching
Huh.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it okay that they're touching you?
Mm. That depends on where I am in my
Well, right
boat.
now.
Right
right
now,
now.
yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all right.
All we have is right now anyway. So
Yeah,
just noticing that you can be okay with those strands touching you.
yeah. Mm. Yeah.
So those hands that just needed to discharge a bunch, is there still that cup of rice, cup of sand ability there? Where is that tension?
There's a little bit of, okay, but I want to, instead of that relaxed,
Mm,
I want to put a little rigidity into my fingers, just a little.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And just noticing the difference, right? It
Yeah.
can still be small. It's still not huge. And you're not as, I would say, resourced as you were,
Yeah.
right? So there's a little bit more rigidity. You need to stay here.
Yeah.
You need to stay here, is my interpretation of that, but I could be wrong.
No, that is, I need to follow the rules. I need to follow the pattern. I need to do correct because that's how we navigate.
Mm.
Yeah.
So it sounds like that's a completely different thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it's like a little mixed cocktail of one part autism brain,
Hmm.
C and CPTSD brain,
Hmm.
right? Because I am firmly in the crossroads of that.
Hmm.
Um, which isn't which doesn't feel rigid because you can go anywhere you want at a crossroads, right?
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
just a place that's constantly moving. There's
Hmm.
not a lot of actual rigidity there. And also, the rule of the crossroads is you must be moving.
Hmm.
That shark business again. So
Hmm.
there's one part that, and then there's one part, this is how we stay safe by following some kind of doing,
Hmm.
right? If I
Hmm.
can do, I can blend and I become invisible.
Hmm.
And then there's the I don't know what else is possible here,
Mm.
right?
It's like
So,
the looping cursive of
uh-huh,
possibility.
yeah. And I know these other two things, so I can do them and I can do them well. Um, and they're good skills,
Hmm.
which has taken a long time to learn. But this third one is the one I'm so curious about all the time now, and that's new. And I don't know. When I get like this, I try to give myself space to be curious about what's happening. What's happening right now? What's happening? What do I want to do right now? What do I want to not do right now?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And
What happens
right
when you lean
now,
into that curiosity?
um most of the time I find myself painting or writing
Yeah.
or um I've taken to buying 10 they're 5 pound bags of roasted peanuts that are unsalted, and I go throw heaps of them outside to the squirrels, and that just, I mean, like I'm chucking them from my front porch. I pull this giant bag and just throwing handfuls of peanuts. I look like a crazy thing out there. And I'm talking to a rock that's on my porch
Hmm.
all the time. Those are the things I most often find myself doing.
That sounds like feral, Amanda.
Yeah. Just
So
still
when
doing
you
stuff.
lean into that curiosity,
Yeah.
look who's there.
Yeah. Mm,
Yeah.
mm.
Yeah. Do you
Thank you.
feel good to be like complete-ish?
Yeah.
I love this session, and that's why I picked it for the first of this series. Um, Amanda is much more in touch with her body than a lot of people are. And there are people who are more in touch and can can read more of what's going on in their body. But if it sounds absurd, what she's able to come up with, you're not alone. When I first started this work years ago, um, I was so shut out of my body that I barely knew when I was hungry.